So I think I heard tonight that one of the slogans here is something like smart but useless. Is that right? So I thought, well, this must be inspired by the Pokemon section of Wikipedia, which is quite smart and quite comprehensive and unbelievably useless. So, and I guess the question is, how do we see the future, right? What's coming in the future? So for me, the thing that most interests me about the future is I don't think about the future in terms of technology. I think about the future in terms of the social impact of the internet. Right now, if you look at the number of people who are on the internet, it depends on how you measure it and who you're asking, but it's about 1.1 to 1.2 billion people. But in the next 5 to 10 years, the next billion people are going to come online. And they're not coming online from Europe, they're not coming online from the US or Japan or Israel, because we're mostly all online. Maybe a few people aren't still, but they're coming online from China, from India, from South America, from Africa. And they're coming online, Southeast Asia. They're coming on from places and cultures that we don't normally interact with, we don't normally hear about. Right now, the extent of the internet is about the same as the extent of the Western world or the developed world, including Japan. But now we've got the next wave of people coming online, and a lot of these people are going to bring new ideas, new cultural influences, and they're going to start interacting with us in lots and lots of ways. In many cases using English, but in many cases just sort of impacting things in a broad way. I think this is really interesting. I think this is something that's going to have an enormous cultural shift on the entire planet. There's a lot of people who talk about oh, it's a small planet and we're all one common humanity on one planet, but it's not really been operational in the way that it will be in the coming years. So I think that when we think about ourselves as part of really we're part of the elite on the planet. Everyone here is part of the elite on the planet. We're certainly part of the very cutting edge elite of technology, communications. I think there's a couple things. I think there are, first of all, I think there's an enormous set of opportunities for us. Love them or hate them, one of the most important companies in the United States is Walmart. And one of the things that's interesting about Walmart, Sam Walton, who was the founder of Walmart, was famous for saying, like, they put all these stores, like giant stores in small towns all over the place. And one of the reasons Sam Walton started Walmart is that his previous employers wouldn't believe him that there was so much business to do in those small towns. I believe the same thing about small languages or languages that aren't economically important today. I think people don't realize how much business there is to do with the other 5 billion people on the planet who aren't part of the billion people leading edge elite. So that's one thing. There's a huge number of opportunities, but I also think there are huge responsibilities. These technologies that we are developing and putting forward have the opportunity to really dramatically transform people's lives for the better, or potentially just to cause chaos. And I think that as we're doing our work, we should think very carefully about how can we make sure that all of our work is done in such a way that helps to uplift people, it helps to bring people together, it helps to contribute to reason and thoughtful solutions all around the world. Providing a free, high-quality encyclopedia to every single person on the planet. That's the core. The idea that a wiki is the best way to do that is really secondary. So a lot of people make the assumption that it's the other way around, that I'm all about, oh, let everyone contribute in this completely open system, and hopefully it turns out to be something good. That's not really the way I come from. I come from, let's make a really good quality knowledge resource for everyone. And fortunately, it turns out that openness, democracy, open dialogue, conversation is actually the best way to get to quality. So when I originally started Wikipedia, I didn't have any preconceptions about the percentage of people who would participate. In fact, before Wikipedia, there was the project Nupedia, which was extremely top-down, 7-stage review process, a complete failure because it didn't really take into account human motivations and so on. But even with Wikipedia, I mean, very often one of the things you should, if you ever see a media story that says Wikipedia is imposing new controls, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but an alarm bell should go off in your mind because it doesn't matter what I say or what I do. The mainstream media's opinion is, oh, finally they've come to their senses. Finally they're going to impose editorial boards. I got this really amazing email from a journalist, where was this journalist? Japan, I think? Who said, we're just trying to confirm the report that you're hiring 20,000 editors. I was like, well, I wish, you know. No, we're not. For us, from the very beginning, the openness is a means to the end. It's not the end in itself. I think that wikis are really good at bringing people together for consensus in all kinds of contexts, and I think that's a really important thing. The very design of the wiki forces people to seek compromise, and that's in many cases both in social situations, in corporate situations. That's a really, really important thing. One of the things that a lot of people expect from me, because Wikipedia is a nonprofit and so on and so forth, a lot of reporters and interviewers try to get me to say anti-commercial things or anti-business things, and that's not at all who I am. But for me, you know, life is not about making money. Life is about doing things that are interesting. And things that are interesting aren't always about making money. They're mostly about doing something useful that changes the world in a positive way. And so for me, social responsibility is not like an add-on at the end. Like, oh, I'm going to do a company, we're going to make a lot of money, but we're also going to give something back. To me, that's not the right way to think about it.
Daria, founder of Sense of Fashion. I want to know of Sense of Fashion.
Sense of Fashion, very nice.
Fashion community and marketplace online.
You can help me, I only dress in black.
We're working on a feature of, Just the Geek. In what way, what surprised you for the worst? What surprised you for the best when Wikipedia took off? And has it changed your perception of human nature in any way?
So the perception of the worst, the perception of the best. Worst I'm not so good at because I'm pathologically optimistic. So anything bad that happens, I forget it 5 seconds later, which is a useful skill in some ways, but may get me killed someday. In terms of the best, I mean, I think it really is that my view of human nature has changed a lot. One of the amazing things that we see in Wikipedia is that the vast majority of people are just trying to do something useful. They're not trying to cause harm. Even when we look at, so if we compare the people who are not logged in, so they're anonymous IPs and they're editing Wikipedia, and we compare that to people who are logged in, or we compare that to very experienced users, what we see in terms of the quality is the very experienced users are the highest quality, the people who are logged in are the second highest quality, and the anonymous users are the lowest quality. Even when we look at the lowest quality, if you go and you just review IP number edits, the vast majority of them are useful in some small way. Someone's correcting spelling errors, someone's adding a fact, someone's maybe fixing some grammar, maybe they're doing something that is, maybe it's not so good, but you can tell they're not trying to be malicious. And even when we see vandalism in Wikipedia, the vast majority of vandalism in Wikipedia is people who are just testing the system. They just come and they just say, really? I can edit this? I'll just see, you know, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And then it's like, that's reverted very quickly, and we say to them, hopefully, when we're doing our job, well, thank you for your contribution, however, please go and read our content policies and so on. But they're just, we call it sandboxing, they're just testing to see. The number of people who are actively malicious on an ongoing basis, either trying to vandalize Wikipedia or trying to really push an agenda or something like that, it's actually fairly small. The vast majority of people are basically benevolent in lots of positive ways. I mean, it's exactly what we expect here. You know, we're here in a crowd, a very small space, something really horrible could happen, some horrible person could be here, we don't expect that. Even in Israel, which is a place that has dealt with a lot of violence and a lot of difficulty, we still say, you know, most people we meet are basically decent, and we know that, we understand that intuitively, and Wikipedia really reinforces that. And I think for me that's very uplifting message.